Have you ever heard of one of those programs that will send a vial of your ashes up into space or off into deep space or even setting your ashes down on the moon forever? Although the idea sounds enticing and cool, it's supposed to because it's very expensive and potentially highly profitable. Nevertheless, it's something you should decide for yourself and not a family member on your behalf just days after you pass away, which is apparently the case for one company known as Celestis. Now, before I get to them, I'll just briefly explain what these companies do. They contract with a space entity that plans to send a rocket up into space for one reason or another. One of these missions, whether it heads to the space station or releases a satellite into space or conducts a simple space flight to run diagnostics or systems checks or performance testing, every once in a while they may have empty space available inside the vehicle that they are launching. That's when these memorial companies come into play. They can send a tiny vial of your ashes, usually just a few grams in size in most cases, up into space by offering different levels of packages ranging from a simple space flight all the way to a permanent landing of your vial of ashes on the moon. Personally, even though it sounds cool, I just think it's a big waste of money. If it's your ashes, it's not like you'll ever really know or care or have the ability to experience the trip. Assuming your vial of ashes will sit on the moon for millions of years, the odds of anything ever finding the box of 100 vials of ashes on the moon are slim to none. And even if they are found one day by some distant relative of the human race or an alien species, the box will probably just find its way into the garbage. But either way, it just feels like another gimmick to grab a lot of money. So, anyway, now that my spiel is over, there was a space capsule that went up with human remains, and the mission was destined to return back to Earth and the remains given back to the family upon their return, but it didn't exactly work out that way. So here's the article from space.com. Human remains lost after Memorial spaceflight capsule crashes into the sea. And this was published about 11 hours ago. And things didn't exactly go as planned. It almost went as planned, but there was one small hiccup. A space capsule included on a recent SpaceX launched almost survived, keyword almost, its descent back to Earth, so the exploration company is deeming their mission a quote partial success. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket launched the Transporter 14 rideshare mission June 23rd, sending 70 payloads from different customers up into orbit. The satellites included CubeSats and other spacecraft bound for low Earth orbit, as well as two re-entry capsules designed for recovery back on Earth. The first came from Varda Space, the company's fourth, quote, Winnebago, end quote, series spacecraft designed to test first of its kind on orbit pharmaceutical manufacturing. Its mission is still underway. The second, Transporter 14's largest payload and the last to be released, was European spacecraft manufacturer the Exploration Company's Mission Possible Nix capsule carrying remains contributed by loved ones through Celestis memorial space flights. Now, Celestis offers various tiers of space memorial services that range all the way to launching remains into deep space. Their quote Earthrise end quote package includes launching DNA of customers' deceased loved ones or even pets. You can even do it with your pet into space and returning them back to Earth. Unfortunately, their return this time did not go as smoothly as planned. For their 25th launch, dubbed the Perseverance flight, Celestis paired with the exploration company's Mission Possible to carry its memorial payload to space and back aboard the Nix capsule. At least that was the plan. Nix performed nominally throughout its entire mission, all the way up until just minutes before its expected Pacific Ocean splashdown. The capsule was launched successfully, powered the payloads nominally in orbit, stabilized itself after separation with the launcher, re entered, and re established communication after the blackout, the company wrote in an online update. For any spacecraft re entering through Earth's atmosphere, there's a period of communication blackout occurring as intense friction with surrounding air forms a layer of superheated plasma around a vessel's hull. So,
You would probably remember that from watching like, movies such as like Apollo 13 or other films where a space capsule is returning back to Earth and it looks like it's on fire and it's burning up and it's super hot. Well, that's what's occurring. There's a layer of air forming around, which is it's basically superheated plasma, and it's just superheated because it's traveling at like 17,000 miles an hour as it's re-entering Earth's atmosphere. So, it's like it's like somebody jumping off of like a 50-foot ledge, like on a cliff or something, and you smack down on the water real hard because even though it's liquid and it moves differently when you're swimming around in it, it's similar to that. It's basically like an object hitting like a body of water with a capsule traveling roughly 17,000 miles an hour suddenly hitting the atmosphere. There's a lot of friction because the atmosphere, it's gas, it's material, it's matter, it's dense, and hitting it with that speed and with that level of friction, it causes it to essentially catch on fire, really. So, anyway, following the most intense stages of falling back from orbit, communications are typically reestablished during a ship's last stretch to landing. Nix's return up to that point was no different until it was. So there's an image. Celestis, I'm assuming that little tiny box is what contains all of those samples of DNA or perhaps ashes, or maybe there's a little lock of hair in there. Things like that, just like a little bitty piece of your relative or your pet, whichever. The exploration company's capsule encountered an anomaly shortly after reestablishing communications. Quote, Nix encountered an issue afterwards, based on our current best knowledge, and we lost communication a few minutes before splashdown. We are still investigating the root causes and will share more information soon, end quote, the company said in their update. Nix's parachute failed to deploy, according to a later statement from Celestis. Come on, dude, with your grammar. From, not form. Quote, the parachute system failed, resulting in the Nix capsule impacting the Pacific Ocean and dispersing its contents at sea, they said. In short, the capsule and its contents plummeted into the drink, or the ocean. It plummeted into the ocean. Quote, though we currently believe that we cannot return the flight capsules, we hope families will find some peace in knowing their loved ones were part of a historic journey. They were launched into space, orbited Earth, and are now resting in the vastness of the Pacific, akin to a traditional and honored sea scattering, Celestis said. Doesn't that sound lovely? I think they still wanted their remains back, though. I think that was all part of the program, was not to let them rest at sea, but to allow them to return their relatives back to them so they can have a piece of them in their hand, knowing that a part of their deceased loved one, whether if it's a pet or a human being, was sent up into space. And now they can't. Which, I mean, you can't exactly put everything on them. I mean, Celestis didn't personally create the spacecraft. I guess they have to kind of defer the responsibility over to whoever was running the rockets, perhaps SpaceX. I mean, I don't believe that SpaceX created the Nix capsule. I guess they'd have to take it up with them. But anyway, the exploration company echoed that sentiment. We apologize to all our clients who entrusted us with their payloads. With their payloads? Don't you mean with their relatives or their loved ones or their irreplaceable pets or something like that? I don't know if I would have referred to deceased humans as payloads. That sounds uh, very corporate. To me, it does. Anyway, Mission Possible was the exploration company's second foray into space and the first for its Nix capsule, which they are designing with the intent of transporting crew and cargo to and from LEO and beyond. And they aren't letting the snag at the end of the endeavor slow them down. No, of course not. Not if the parachutes don't deploy. They're certainly not going to slow down at all. Quote, we have been pushing boundaries in record time and cost. This partial success reflects both ambition and the inherent risks of innovation. Leveraging the technical milestones achieved yesterday and the lessons we will extract from our ongoing investigation, we will then prepare to refly as soon as possible, the company said. Join our space forums to keep talking about space. And that's on space.com, of course. So, anyway, somebody left a comment, and this person, Damon Orabello, he was a part of this program in that they sent a relative's remains up with this exact mission, and he had a few words to say to this whole issue that occurred. So I'll go ahead and read that for you. Let me see. I think that's about as big as I can make it, so I think you can read it. Anyway, thank you, Josh Dinner, for the article. He's the one who wrote the article. We lost our son, and we sent a locket of his hair into space with the expectation of receiving it back. This mission was pushed off for us for 2 years and for others for as long as 7 years, I believe. Now, full stop. I will say the reason that it may have taken as long as 7 years is because this company, Celestis, they essentially have to wait for a space vehicle to travel into space that has spare room, that has unused cargo space that nobody else has pretty much called dibs on. But this company, even, well, especially SpaceX, usually every time they're sending something up into space, the payload is the reason they're going up into space. There's not very often, I would think, not very often there would be just empty spare room inside a space vehicle or a capsule or a payload container or anything like that. So this company basically just has to wait until such a time where there is space available for them to put this little box that it seems that they had in their possession in the photo above, holding that little bitty box that looked like it measured maybe like 6 inches by 6 inches by 6 inches, give or take. So that may have been why it took so long, because they just have to wait for enough free space to send it up, which I'm sure costs a lot of money, but I'm sure that Celestis is probably making a lot more money. But anyway, all right, I'll digress. So as long as 7 years, I believe. Understandable. Things happen. I'd be happy to report on our whole experience with this situation. Although it did come to fruition finally, I don't feel it was a very good experience altogether. We were sold on this idea when we were planning funeral arrangements for our 16-year-old son. Even though I appreciate the opportunity to do something cool like this, I feel that we were taken advantage of and sold a thing in our time of mourning. Is it the fault of Celestis or the funeral home? Yes, for many reasons that I won't list here, based on my entire experience. Is it my fault for falling for what feels like a sham? Yes. I should have been more clear headed and asked more questions and really thought this through before making a decision to buy this Celestis deal. But I wasn't. This was days after losing my son. I don't think this should be offered during funeral arrangements. These are my feelings and maybe my feelings alone. Either way, I walked away sour from my experience. The quote, akin to traditional sea scattering and quote, BS is gaslighting at best. I agree. It doesn't help any of us feel better to make up some new, cool, mystical situation that happened as a result of their parachutes not going off and everything crashing into the ocean. Yeah, and also calling your deceased 16-year-old son a payload. Uh, Dude, that is pretty far from sounding humane, in my opinion. But I wonder how much it really does cost to send a loved one's, or perhaps your own. I'm sure that Celestis will take your money before you die, and then they'll send your remains up. They'll arrange everything, I'm sure. But I wonder how much it'll cost. And all right, so using the power of the pause button, and you didn't even notice, but I actually took a minute to look it up and actually found it. So it costs anywhere from $1,295 all the way up to $12,500 to send your quote unquote DNA into space. And not only did I find the numbers, I also found their website and how they market this. And I skimmed it just very briefly, and it isn't anything that I'm pleased with at all. They make it sound like that they're going to send your DNA off into deep space for what? And they're saying like you can send your genetic blueprint out into deep space for eons, forever, and then what? What, so what? Some alien spacecraft
millions of years from now might just happen upon this tiny little box floating out in space, and they're going to open it up and be like, "Oh, I know what this is. This has got to be DNA in here somewhere. Let's take this DNA and let's build a genetic copy of whoever this is." And then what? Like you're going to come back to life or something? I mean, they don't go that crazy, but it just it, I guess they leave it open to interpretation. So I'm interpreting it the way that I'm reading it. I mean, they kind of leave it open to let your mind wander. But I mean, what's the point in sending your DNA out in space realistically? I mean, what's that really going to do? I mean, I don't know. It just sounds silly to me. But so I'll actually read what they're pitching. Beyond cremation memorial services. Since 1994, Celestis memorial space flights have been available to anyone choosing cremation as final disposition. Now, by selecting the Celestis DNA service, you can choose a Celestis memorial space flight for yourself or a loved one, regardless of final disposition choice. A memorial space flight option is no longer limited only to those choosing cremation. Even more, the Celestis DNA service now extends affordable personal spaceflight options to the living, providing the means for all of us to make a very real journey to space and even to elect off planet personal DNA storage. Fly as one or with family and friends on a personal voyage among the stars. So, in other words, they're probably taking about as much material from you as like what a head of a pin, probably the tiniest little amount, which is it's an easy way to pack in lots and lots of customers into a teeny tiny little container. Probably like maybe about the size of a die, like a dice. Maybe that small. Like I mean, if you're taking just a little prick of DNA from a person and you put it into a little teeny tiny who knows what, you could probably fit like what 10,000 samples of DNA into like a little dice. I mean, it just sounds like it's a lot more convenient for them because they can just take a whole lot less from you and not something like, like a 10-gram vial of your ashes or a locket of hair, for example, or something similar to that. But anyway, I'll continue. Making genetic spaceflight possible. Who else but Celestis, the iconic global pioneer and leader in memorial spaceflight, could provide this affordable means for personal space migration? So, it's not you experiencing this migration, but it's your DNA. Your DNA gets to experience this. To date, only a few well known quote unquote celebrities have been permitted by NASA and its international partners to send their unique biological signature, their DNA, to the International Space Station. Again, I ask, why? Why? I don't understand that. Like, so you can brag to your friends, so you can flex, so you can maybe create a TikTok video about how special I am now that my DNA is up in space somewhere. I mean, realistically, how do you really know? How do you know they didn't just flush it down the toilet and they said, "Oh yeah, we totally sent it up there. Yeah, it's up there. Like, look here, come out here, here. Here's some binoculars. Yeah, you see a little white dot? That's the space station. Yeah, your DNA is totally right there." So anyway, now with Celestis DNA, we may all choose to launch your DNA into space as a symbolic and meaningful gesture or as a tribute to a life dedicated to exploration and understanding. Now, full disclosure, I'm not saying that they're not sending DNA up into space. I 100% believe that they are, because if not, it would be in an extremely elaborate and overwhelmingly enormous fraud case. So I'm sure they're doing it. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying that in my own humble opinion, as an astronomy junkie, as someone who's been obsessed with astronomy since I was old enough to read, I just find this to be a little silly. Just my opinion. I mean, look, like virtually every molecule in your body was originated in a star to begin with. I mean, I'm sure that you've probably heard that typical saying that we're all star stuff, we're all made out of stars. Well, yeah, because basically every element other than hydrogen was fused inside a freaking star. So, yeah, quite literally everything on the planet and surrounding us, like including the entire solar system and every celestial object in it, is made up of atoms and molecules that at some point were inside stars, and stars exploded, supernovas or hypernovas or what have you. And long story short, here we are.
So that's why I think it's just, yeah, kind of, yeah, all right, yeah, sure, whatever. But anyway, so here's some services and features. Celestis DNA is available on the same terms, including price, as our post cremation memorial spaceflight services. And I actually did not click on that, but I'll put that into the next tab. So, memorial spaceflight services for those not choosing cremation. The Celestis DNA service permits anyone to choose this option for yourself or a loved one, regardless of choice for final disposition. You can also do off planet DNA storage and preservation. You can place your unique biological signature, your DNA, aboard a spacecraft that resides either on the moon or in deep space permanently. We have no idea where it's going to end up, but it probably won't end up outside the solar system. I doubt it, unless they're going to send it off in a very fast trajectory, which I doubt. But what do I know? Home banking your heritage. The Celestis DNA service includes, at no extra cost, a DNA Memorial Home Banking Solution Kit. Genetic Health Incorporated will provide a second DNA sample to your designated beneficiary, permitting long term DNA storage at home, ensuring that your or a loved one's genetic history is preserved and available for future analysis and assessment. But again, why? I don't understand that. Like, I mean, maybe if you've got a lot of pre-existing health conditions or something, maybe you might want to pass that along a few or several generations ahead to let them know, like, hey, you got a relative a long time ago. I had this chronic illness and that wrong with me, just in case. Maybe they might want to know that. But as far as I know, your natural genetic DNA material, it's only going to last about 300 years, I think. I think that's how long your DNA material will stay alive for, like, quote unquote alive. I mean, I'll double check, but I'll just go ahead and ask Google. How long will your DNA last? So every 1,000 years, look, how long does DNA last? This is from sciencefocus.com. So every 1,000 years, 75% of the genetic information is lost. After 6.8 million years, every single base pair is gone. So even if your genetic material is shot out into space, within a few million years, every single trace of what used to be your DNA will be completely gone. But even after 1,000 years, which, yeah, that's a long time. But when it comes to sending off your genetic material out into space, 1,000 years is but a blink of an eye. I mean, look, like, so let's say that the universe, the entire lifetime of the universe is a 100-year human lifetime. All right, I'm gonna try to keep this simple, but because the last star is expected to burn out roughly about 100 trillion years from the Big Bang. That's a long time from now. The Big Bang, we think, started about 13.72 billion years ago. And I know recent news, and they're now saying it might be twice that, it might be 30 billion years, but still, follow me. It's still probably going to be at the point where the stelliferous era, otherwise known as the last star burning out, at the end of the stelliferous era, will be about 100 trillion years from now. So, crunch that all the way down to a 100-year human lifetime. That's how long the universe is going to live. So, where are we today in the universe's 100-year human lifetime? Well, this point in the universe's lifetime, we're only 10 minutes old. The universe was just born 10 minutes ago. Just minutes ago. The universe hasn't even experienced its first day of its 100-year lifetime. So the universe is going to be around for quite some time. 1,000 years is nothing. It's not even a blink of an eye. It's like a micrometer of your eye starting to blink. So, I mean, so for 75% of your genetic information to be lost after 1,000 years, I mean, it's really, ultimately, it's just completely pointless to send your DNA off into deep space, because it's never going to be recoverable. Space is way too big, way too vast. There's no way in hell anything is going to ever find that. You're just going to be floating out in space forever, which some people would think that would be cool in and of itself, which, yeah, I think that'd be cool. But realistically, your DNA, you'd be better off just sending your ashes out there, because at least your ashes are going to hold together for millions of years. Whereas your DNA, it's just going to fall apart after 1,000 years. But anyway, let me go back to where we were. So there's an option for interstellar migration. Really? Combining the powerful tools of deep space radio transmission and digital DNA. Digital DNA. The same Celestis team that conducted both cosmic calls plans to target stars with planetary systems and will offer you the option to beam you or a loved one's unique DNA signature to distant galaxies. Galaxies? Really? Creating affordable personal interstellar travel options for all of us. So they're going to beam a signal of your DNA signature to a galaxy. But what okay, so I understand the whole stars with planetary systems, even though we've surveyed it's I think we've surveyed up to well pretty close to 10,000 different exoplanets out there that we've found so far. It's about how many we've found. Close to roughly about 10,000. Out of all 10,000 of those exoplanets, do you have how many of those that we think might have life on it? Just one. And even that one's looking less likely today than it was 6 months ago. So, yeah, you can beam their DNA to any planet you desire. Doesn't mean anything's going to be there to receive it. And even if there was something there to receive it, do they have the exact same technology as the technology that you have that you're beaming this information with? I mean, they're going to have to intercept it with something. Otherwise, they're never going to know it was ever even sent. So they're going to have discovered electricity at least in order to build a contraption that's capable of receiving, I don't know what this is, radio signals, I assume. So it just to me it just sounds silly, man. It just sounds like, if you knew astronomy or if you've studied the cosmos or anything of the like, I think you would find this to be just silly. I'm trying to be as nice as I can without getting, completely rude. That's why I'm using the word silly. I don't usually use that word, but the whole galaxies thing, I mean, that's what galaxy? Which one? Andromeda? I mean, there's a lot of them in our local group. What, like 30, 35 or so? I mean, are they going to send it to one of those because it's nearby? The signal may not degrade all that much over that distance, which, by the way, just to send a signal, let's say they're going to send it to Andromeda. That's the closest, large galaxy if you don't include the large and the small Magellanic Clouds, which technically they're their own galaxy, but they're within the Milky Way's orbit, close orbit. But anyway, Andromeda. Let's send it to the Andromeda galaxy. It's our next door neighbor galaxy. It's still going to take 2.5 million years to get there. I mean, will that radio signal still be completely intact? I mean, maybe. It might be. It just might be. But even though, if an alien species were to intercept this DNA signature of yours, like I know that they're sending thousands of other people's DNA signature out into space, but let's say that they receive yours, what do you expect them to do with it? How are they even going to know that this radio signal is of a DNA signature anyway? Maybe they haven't even discovered DNA at that point. Maybe when they receive it, it'll just be, I mean, I'm assuming it's the 4 letters that are used with genetic sequencing DNA. I know one is the letter G, but there's 4 letters that they use. So they're just going to get, like, are they even going to know English? Have they ever seen English letters before? I mean, we're talking a completely different galaxy. I mean, I've got so many questions. I'm not saying that I demand the answers to them. I don't need the answers to these questions. So anyway, they're going to send your digital DNA signature, which I would love to see what that looks like, or even better yet, what does that sound like? Are they just going to explain it to you and they're just going to play some like quick like informational video and then you're supposed to say, yeah, that looks awesome. I'll pay X amount of money for that. So anyway, many theories. Did I get to that point? Yeah. Many theories suggest that life on Earth originated from interstellar DNA. Read about humanity's efforts to return life's signature to the stars. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, okay. I mean, that's for a whole nother conversation. I suppose if you want, you can click on that link, which I'll leave this link to this article in my description, as I always do. Long-term DNA storage at home. How long will the DNA stored in the home DNA banking kit last? Will it eventually degrade? I would say the short answer is almost certainly yes. Anyway, a uniquely compelling memorial experience. So this is supposed to be the different plans. All right. The dream of spaceflight is now a reality. That is not very easy to read, folks. Destiny flight. Okay, scheduled missions. To be announced, Cape Canaveral, Q4. Okay. Where's the pricing? Didn't they say that there's supposed to be pricing in here? Celestis DNA, launch your DNA to space. Well, I mean, that's what we primarily read, so let's at least try this one. If they're going to send me on this, around the world trip on their website, I may just have to end it, but I'm just curious to see if they're going to tell us. I have a feeling they're not even going to give us any pricing. Services. All right, we've already read all that. Okay, so we went around the world and we're back again. We're right back where we started. Enterprise and Tranquility, flights, updates, progress. I mean, I'm not interested in the flight times. I'm interested in how much this costs. There's not another memorial service. I'm not interested in a memorial service. All right, well, I don't think we're going to find out. Wait, hold on. I guess maybe. Here we go. Damn, I'm blind. It was right there in the menu. Earth Rise. Launch to space and return to Earth, starting at $3,500. So the person in that article that sent a locket of hair spent a minimum of $3,500 on that, and they don't even get it back. So yeah, I might be a little frustrated too, especially if they were selling you the idea that you were going to get whatever you were sending up, you were going to get it back, but they're not. And I get it. You can't totally fault them for the parachutes not deploying, but it all goes into the risk of space flight. Things happen. So the next one, Earth orbit, launch into Earth's orbit, starting at $5,000. Launch to the lunar orbit or to the surface of the moon, starting at $13,000. And then the Voyager, you can launch into deep space, starting at $13,000. And that's starting. What's the higher end of that? The Voyager service details. Carrying remains or DNA on a permanent celestial journey well beyond the moon, but probably not out of the solar system. It sounds like they're trying to market it that way, that they're going to send it way off into deep space, so far into deep space that it's going to be passing by stars at any given, or not any given point, but eventually. Even though that the fastest vehicle that we've ever created, which is going to be way faster than whatever this vehicle is that's going to send your remains out into deep space. If it is as fast as the quickest vehicle that humans have ever sent out into space, it would still take at least 65,000 years for it to reach the nearest star, which is the Alpha Centauri system. 4 light years away, it would still take over 60,000 years just to reach that system. And that's if it's pointed in that direction. It may not even be heading that way. There's a lot of different directions you can go in space. So let's see here. Symbolic portion or DNA sample. Okay. I'm just seeing if they had like price packages, complete service features and prices. Starting at, here we go. It's starting at $12,995. Approximately 1 gram. That's it. 1 gram. Holy moly. Gemini capsule. You can do 2 grams, 3 grams, 7 grams. This fee covers all anticipated financial institution costs. Okay. Oh, yeah, the processing fee, whatever. So you can send up to 7 grams for $40,000. And that's going to the moon. The premier service. But what about, oh, this must be like what they've got scheduled. What about the deep space one? I want to know like the deep space. And also, if I'm going to be spending like 40,000 plus, I want you to show me on a star chart or some trajectory as to where exactly this thing is supposed to be going. Will it go beyond Mars's orbit? I mean, look, the sun has a lot of gravitational power. I mean, it's holding everything in. I mean, everything's stable. It's not, we're not falling into the sun or anything. Thank God we're stable in our orbit, but sending something out into the solar system, I mean, there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of planets out there. There's a lot of satellites or moons. And it's not as easy as it sounds to just send something, that way, and it will just fly off into space. But, I'm not that great. I'm not that well versed on physics, so maybe it will. Maybe, don't send it toward any planet, send it like straight up. That way it'll leave the solar system by going directly up above the solar system and beyond, maybe. So anyway, I'm just rambling. I just found that just kind of, I'll use the word again, little silly to do this, even though I mean it is something that would be enticing. I'm sure like a relative of mine who knows how into astronomy that I am and I always have been. Anytime they have like a trivial question when it comes to space in general, they know that I'm the one to ask. They would think that like, my sudden passing, and if they were approached by somebody such as this Celeste company or whatever they were called, they might be like, "Yeah, he would really love that. That would really be so special for, to be able to do that." I mean, I could see how they would get suckered into that, thinking that I would like that, which I don't give a shit. I really don't care. I think, if you're gonna spend 12 grand or 20 grand, do it on something else. I mean, put me in the ground. That's expensive. Do that. Don't send me into space. Put me in the ground. Don't cremate me. Give me a headstone. Let's do it the old fashioned way. Hell, even go to the extra mile. Install a little bell and then run the string all the way down into my coffin. That way, God forbid, I could at least ring the bell and warn everybody, hey, I'm not really dead down here. But anyway, that's all I got. So thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you like. If you like, or if not, that's cool too. But anyway, thanks for watching and see you later.